Who do you think is the most underrated comic currently?
The most underrated comic. I have no idea. I'm not super up on the comic scene. I'd have to say my favorite comic right now is Sebastian Maniscalco.
Nice.
Are you familiar with him?
I think I've seen him on Facebook Reels.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah. So how often, where do you watch your shows at?
Typically I'll turn on Netflix from time to time, but other than that, that's about it. I'm not a huge TV watcher or anything like that. Listen to podcasts and things like that for news sometimes. But yeah, not big on like the day-to-day TV. Like
How long a
cops.
podcast do you listen to?
I'll listen to 3-hour podcast, no problem. Especially if I'm driving too, I can knock out a 3 or 4 hours pretty easy. I think nowadays a lot of them are, I think, 45 minutes to an hour is fairly common,
Yeah.
So
So
I don't know. I just think it's easier just to sit and listen than to watch TV. I feel like I get more done.
I agree. So what is your mind process like when you're going into podcast selection? What do you do? Where do you go?
Kind of like how you would for music, right? Kind of like depends what kind of mood you're in.
Yeah.
Do you want to listen to, unsolved mysteries or crimes or, depending on what was on the day before, it's like any kind of political news or, I listen to, web development podcasts occasionally, things related to my industry that I work in, or just like easy listening podcasts, just like, informational and interesting people, interesting points of view, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand that. When I really get into podcasts, I got some that I listen to for data science, some for finance, like for what's going on in the stock market, and Joe Rogan and Lex Friedman, and yeah, I pick and choose. It depends on what I'm feeling, but I have about no more than 10 podcasts that I listen to.
I'll try and find a new one every now and then, but my attention span's pretty short. I'll give them 5 minutes to get into it, but if they don't like really kind of catch my attention in the first little bit, it's on to the next one, and especially like nowadays there's so many podcasts out there. You have so much selection. Even like 6-7 years ago, it seems like all you had was the top 10 or Joe Rogan plus 5 more maybe,
Yeah.
in a couple categories. But now there's so much selection. You can find a topic or a podcast on any topic that you want, really, and just search subjects. And if there's not a complete podcast on it, there's probably at the very least a few episodes or something related to that's out there,
Mm-hmm. So. Yeah. So when you're trying to find a new podcast, are you looking at the length first?
No, not at all.
Okay.
I'm more looking at the subject and the topic, like what they're talking about, their point of view, like if it's an interesting person, like what their point of view is, or if it's like a specific topic related to something that I'm interested in or working on, like at work, or I have an idea for a side project. I'll start like looking for ideas and just kind of doing research and diving into that topic and subject related to that in podcasts. So I guess it's more kind of just reading the description more than anything.
AI News Interruption. Today in AI News, the People's Republic of California are attempting to regulate machine learning with threats of attempting to regulate machine learning. California policymakers are trying to put guardrails on something that doesn't exist: artificial intelligence. It's mostly about arithmetic. Specifically, they want any machine learning models trained on the 10th to the 26th floating point operations to be reported to the U.S. government. Not only is this completely unregulatable, like net neutrality, it will soon become obsolete as Moore's law will continue to increase at an exponential rate. Computation will become quicker and storage exponentiated. This is just more buzz to try to create a belief around something that doesn't exist.
And I'll kind of look at too as, if it's just a bunch of 2-minute podcasts, obviously I'll probably keep scrolling, but, yeah, I don't know. A lot of times, sometimes if they have a lot of reviews or a lot of stars too, that helps, just to quickly see.
Yeah. I got this theory that the longer version podcast is good in the fact that the demographic that could listen. So when you're working in, like, say on a factory floor, you're working anywhere really, and you're able to listen to podcasts while doing your job, the more times you have to pull out your phone on the floor to change the podcast is more time that you're risking getting your ass chewed out. So that's why when I work for people and I'm allowed to listen to a podcast, I always go for the longer ones because I know those are the ones I'm least likely to have to pull my phone out and find a new podcast or press a button to go to the next episode or some shit like that.
Yeah. I guess in that sense, I'm not so much the get my ass chewed by a boss sense, but looking for just being able to put on something for some mindless listening without having to worry about it for, an hour or two. That definitely has its advantage for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point. So you say you watch Netflix. So what sort of shows are you watching on Netflix currently?
Well, currently, I feel like Netflix doesn't have a whole lot of good stuff to watch.
You're telling me.
So, to be honest, I haven't really been watching a whole lot of TV lately. Mm-hmm. It's been kind of these off-brand apps that my wife downloaded, watching just like crime shows and cops and, murder mysteries and things like that. Crime documentaries. That's usually what we watch. She doesn't have the patience typically to sit down and watch a whole movie. So she just likes to watch kind of like that mindless crime documentary type shows. I don't know. I think she's kind of crazy, but
no, that's pretty normal actually. Yeah. That's that one guy who I had on the podcast. His name was Daniel Schaefer. He was a screenwriter, and he helped out with the Z Nation that was here. And he was talking about when they get a script, they're given all these keywords, and he said that the Z Nation show was designed for that sort of certain age of housewife or a mom or whatever that like that constant sound in the background.
Yeah, where you can put it on and vacuum at the same time, and you can miss 5 minutes and still come right back to it.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, and I've wondered about this too, because I don't even have a TV, so I don't watch TV. And I don't live with anybody who has a TV. But when I go to like my mom's house and she has something playing, or other people who have like Fox News playing all day or some sort of news, I think that sort of satiation, like maybe they feel that they're socially involved, that they aren't isolated and alone because there is a voice talking somewhere. that's one idea I have. Another idea I have is like it also factors into safety too. So if there is a continuous TV playing with noise, if some person breaks into the home, they'll assume there's people there because the TV is on. So these are just things I think about.
I've actually done that at times, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like when especially like if I run to the store real quick or something, leave the TV on to make people think I'm home, you know, or if their kids are sleeping upstairs or something like that, like leave it on. But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of the same. I just really just don't watch a ton of TV, honestly, these days anymore. And I think that feel like the media is kind of a joke.
Oh, you're telling me it's a total joke.
So,
it's complete sensationalism and bullshit. Like it's hard to tell the truth from the lie, man.
Yeah. So anytime I see like celebrities like spouting off and things like that, I'm just like, I could care less about any of that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't really get too bought into a lot of the TV shows and all that stuff, but I do enjoy a good movie every now and then.
Mm-hmm. And one of the things I don't like about Netflix is its algorithm is overfit to the user. So,
oh, dude.
Yeah. So there's a lot of great shows on Netflix that I never find out about until I go to somebody else's house and I see what's on their account. You know,
I always like to say, everyone's always worried about like the Facebook and the Google algorithms and stuff, Alexa algorithms tracking you. The one they really need to be concerned about is this Netflix algorithm. I don't know what the heck's going on over there, but they're like recommending me like Chinese, you know, all these other shows in like foreign languages I don't even speak or anything. I'm like, I don't know what is going on with this algorithm. The movies and the shows look like they start off good, and then as soon as they start talking, it goes immediately into subtitles. I'm just like, wow, how is this showing up in my algorithm? Very strange.
Yeah, I think you're like 3 clicks away from it just shoving you a bunch of shit that you may or may not like. And I noticed that Facebook's the same way. So in the world of machine learning, they call that overfitting the model, where you train it on too much of the same data so it can't generalize on new things. So that's what you're seeing a lot with YouTube and Facebook. Netflix is overly sensitive. Disney really messed it up when they have a horribly overfit model, and their model is based off of the show Hamilton, the Broadway show,
like the old play.
Yeah, the play. And so
that's what the algorithm is based. What?
Mm-hmm. Right. So in 2020, when COVID happened, right, Disney Plus came out. It was around $6.99 for a subscription. So you get a subscription, no ads, no issues or anything like that. I think at one point it was like free, and then they started paying $6.99. Either way, they had Hamilton was on there, and it was just the data in the few hours on Hamilton was just through the roof, right? And so they're like, oh shit, well, if you liked Hamilton, you'd like all black casts, you like everything changed. So what's happening literally. And then the whole fucking Panderverse and all this shit.
So they based it off of that as like the baseline, essentially.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's called overfitting a model. So there's so many examples of overfit machine learning models. For example, the racist soap dispenser, which was only trained on pictures of hands of white people. So it wouldn't dispense soap if you're not white. Yeah, that's a real one. Yeah, overfitting. There's a lot of overfit models to include like big tech. I mean, the thing that's nice about YouTube is it takes way more data for YouTube before it starts recommending things, but YouTube knows you the most. YouTube is creepy how it knows you.
I was going to say YouTube's usually feeds me. It's easy to go down the rabbit hole on YouTube. they're pretty good at feeding you the right videos and the right suggestions and things like that. It's like, oh, what's this over here? Before you know it, you have like multiple tabs open, saved in other windows, waiting to come back to these other video suggestions that you've seen.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it gets deadly there too.
Yeah, the battle of the user experience. That's what it boils down to. Like, how good can you make the user experience?
I remember when YouTube didn't have those 5-second videos or the videos,
Yeah, the shorts.
the ads, or no, the ads before the videos.
Oh yeah.
Remember when they strictly, it was just more like AdSense style ads, like on the side of the sites or things like that. But there was never like video ads before the video that you played. I remember when they started putting those, I was like, what the heck is this? You have to hit skip a bunch of times.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because I just encountered this data set that I'm studying. It's publicly available from Google because Google is letting you know who all has paid for political ads. And so I got the data set as for everyone who's paid for political ads from 2018 to 2004. And it's like only like 534 instances.
What do you mean? Of people that have paid for political ads?
Yeah.
In Washington State?
No.
In the United States?
Yeah. No. The world.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
So, yeah.
500 people have paid for. So when you say paid for a political ad, you mean like signed the check or ran their credit card to have, paid ads for a political campaign of some kind?
Yep.
Or a political
Yeah,
party?
534 amongst numerous countries. So, yeah, I got that data set. I'm going to be making a blog on it. It's
that seems low.
Yeah, it doesn't bode well for Google. It doesn't say much. It doesn't say well for Google. That means like you would think that just in Spokane County alone, people would be paying money for Google ads, right? And
yeah, so I mean, I'm thinking of like every city across the United States where they're having like local elections of some kind. Anyone that wants to be elected, city mayor or, to some city elected official, right? That would be considered a political ad. Mm-hmm. So those people would be counted into that 500, right?
Yeah. Even if it was a YouTube video, yes, because Google owns YouTube. So that when it shows and you can click on the hyperlink that takes you to the video.
Yeah, so that just seems
incredibly low.
Crazily
Either
low.
they're not reporting everything, which might be the case, because I can think of some local politicians that have paid for YouTube ads, and I still have to find their name in there, but it's very low.
Yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if it was non-reporting too.
Yeah, it could be non-reporting. It could be the way that they aggregated the data.
Yeah.
It could be the way that the campaign manager decided to input the ad for the YouTube ad. How they decided they could have said business instead of political. Who knows what category?
Still though, I would have thought that number would have been at least like 10 times that.
Yeah, at least. But then again, it's like, and then I'm looking at the prices. So for around $10,000 to $30,000, so it's showing you the min and max price range that this specific advertiser paid, and it seems for around $10,000 to $30,000, it'll put you in front of 1 million people. I'm like, shit, that's a lot of money to get in front of 1 million people, 1 million views. And because I'm looking at like simple video, but I guess that's where the influencers come in.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's all kind of relative too, like yeah, influencers, or if something goes viral, that's kind of the power of social media and the internet these days is, you know, hopefully it doesn't take $30,000 to get that, to actually have to buy the views or to go to get that much of an audience. But also, if you think about it too, like in a sense of like traditional like marketing and advertising, really like $30,000 is really nothing to get a million person audience in the traditional marketing or advertising sense of like if you were thinking of buying, newspaper ads or radio ads or a TV commercial, what the reach of like what that channel would be selling you, the cost would be significant, to hit a million people. Like if you were to buy a full page ad in like the New York Times or something like that, it'd be more than $30,000, like, probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that's kind of all relative too, because like you were saying, that's like the power of influencers, social media, and things going viral. You could spend nothing and do a good like guerrilla advertising campaign and just have it take off and people start sharing it and it's just a hit,
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about kind of being smart and I think kind of knowing your target and your audience.
Yeah. So when it comes to the world of web development, talk about what you do.
Well, I mean, in a short couple brief sentences, web developer's job is to, take a client's vision for whether that's their project, a side project, their business, whatever the website needs to be, and to craft that in the best way and build that online, to be able to be served to people on the internet. The difference being between a web designer and a web developer being that the web developers typically handling all the code and all the back end stuff that the user doesn't typically see.
How'd you get started as a web developer?
So I got into web development when I went to school at Montana State University for graphic design, and I always kind of wanted to be creative, do something that was creative, kind of like an artist or something, but I loved working on computers as well, and that's how I found graphic design. And towards the end of my college career, there is when I discovered web design and web development and kind of went down that rabbit hole after graduation there. Started with trying to self-teach myself Ruby and Ruby on Rails. Took a bunch of at-home courses, building simple websites for friends and family, getting used to HTML and CSS. Tried applying for a few jobs and stuff, but, it was very very not qualified at all, but I was trying, I really wanted to do that and was interested. I was going to meetups and things like that. And yeah, just always had an interest in web development pretty much from that point on, kept up with it. And one of the great things about web development and what drew me to it was, there's always something new coming out. You always have to keep up with the technology is always changing. The frameworks are always up, having updates. The internet's getting more and more powerful. What can be done in the browser is getting more and more powerful and complex, and it's just getting just a lot more availabilities essentially. So I liked that aspect of being able to always be learning something new. So that's kind of how I went into web development. I little bit later on, a few years after that, I moved to Denver and went through a full stack coding boot camp there for 6 months. And that kind of helped to get my foot in the door with a few other jobs in the industry.
Cool. So after Denver, where did you go?
Yeah. So I was working at Denver for a inventory management, like tracking software company, doing a lot of like QR codes, tracking inventory in and out of warehouses, things like that. And I was more or less just kind of helping update the look of their software, doing little small bug fixes on the back end. Not really doing a whole lot, but I was still looking at code every day and helping where I could. And just kind of getting used to talking about it, I guess, each day. And that was kind of my first real desk office job, I'd say. Mm-hmm. After that was that job took me right into the beginning of COVID, essentially. And then after that gig, me and my wife wanted to kind of move out of the city. And I have family up in Montana. We took a road trip up through Boise and Spokane and Coeur d'Alene, and then back through Montana and to Denver, and just kind of fell in love with this area. And as soon as we got back to Denver, I started putting in applications to companies and various jobs around the area to come work up here and try and get a job up here. And ended up getting a job at a digital advertising agency up here, where I worked at for a little over 3 years, and got a lot of great experience there, working on a lot of big projects for doing a lot of cool projects, sweepstakes type projects, and full websites for other agencies. But yeah, it's a lot of like, if Mountain Dew was coming out with a new flavor, they would do a sweepstakes or a promotion for 6 months, scan the QR code to come to this landing page, register, and go through some kind of experience. A lot of times through the camera on your phone, an AR or VR experience, register to win some kind of prize, come back and we'll keep track of all your points. And then it would, thank you for registering, scan another can tomorrow or whatever. My job there was to essentially be handed the designs. Okay, this is the project. This is what we're making. As soon as they scan that QR code and go to that landing page, that's essentially what I was in charge of building out. So I would code that whole experience, the registration form, the landing page, all the animation on that page, handling the logins, dealing with, and then typically would be paired with a back-end developer who would, handle, security and things like that. But so a lot of the experience from when a user lands on it, pretty much what they see, that was my job, was to make sure what you see was displayed correctly and worked properly for them, whether that was on a phone or a computer or whatever.
Damn. Did you so talk about the analytics and your iterative process through that?
So as far as like for tracking,
like how many people scanned the QR code show? Did they bounce quick? What sort of elements kept the retention on the website?
So typically they have their own marketing teams that tracked a lot of the like the details of that. So I can't really speak too much to, bounce rates and stuff like that. I was in charge of like implementing like tracking tags, like Google tags, things like that, of like what they wanted to keep track of. And I do know that like a lot of these were in the, you know, hundreds of thousands of users, but they were essentially like the whoever the backend developer was in charge of setting up, you know, the security of who could log in, things like that. They would pull, occasionally have to pull reports on, you know, failed logins and stuff like that. But I'm not too sure on like the analytics as far as, you know, how long people were, you know, using each page or, you know, things like that.
So from a big level, macro level, those QR code campaigns on a can are getting hundreds of thousands of views of traffic.
Oh yeah.
So that's pretty useful.
Yeah. And that's just one example, you know, that's just kind of one example. There's multiple ways you can kind of go about that. You know, sometimes it's like text this or whatever, but yeah, there were definitely high volume campaigns, you know, it was like looking back, it was a lot of like big food brands. Dunkin' Donuts was another one that we did a Halloween campaign for. But typically it was some kind of experience. Like they would go to the page, need to register to try and win something, you know, and it was less of like the just informational type, like landing page, into your email, get a PDF of some kind.
Yeah, I've always wondered how often people actually win those.
They win.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I've actually, I wondered the same thing. One of my team leads that I sat next to at a previous job, he was like really big on entering into all those things. And he won a number of things like while I was there. I think he won, I don't know, some sporting equipment. They wrote a script for I forget what the company was, but there was some food company that they were working for, and they wrote a script for, I think it was like it might have been like for Olive Garden or something, and they got entered in, wrote a script to enter when the promotion started, and actually ended up winning, and then went and flew to like Italy and went on the tour and everything. So
nice.
Yeah. People do win.
I've heard of that. I've heard of people who've dedicated their time to just entering sweepstakes and stuff, and they win. I guess they. Yeah. I just remember back when I was a kid and opening up the bottle of pop and then looking under the lid. Like, you win a free Coke. I'm like, yay.
Do you remember the
Monopoly?
Monopoly at McDonald's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have an interesting thought on that.
Let's hear it.
It's to encourage shareholders to buy stock in McDonald's. Yeah, it's some deep psychological stuff, but yeah, it's about, you know, understanding.
Well,
yeah.
Speaking of Netflix, did you see there's a Netflix special on? There is, I think they might have been connected to the mafia or something, but somewhere on the East Coast, they were printing out the fake tickets, like Boardwalk and stuff. And they were winning. They're basically cheating the McDonald's monopoly and winning like hundreds of thousands of dollars and all kinds of stuff.
Damn.
And they're like, after a bunch of winners, they're like, wait a second, like all these people are like connected, you know, they started connecting the dots, and they're printing them off somehow.
That's funny. That reminds me of another Netflix movie I watched. It was about these two women that like went to Mexico and convince these factory workers to print out coupons for like free shit, like free package of diapers, you know. Yeah, it was a comedy, but yeah, there is truth in comedy. Obviously somebody did this at some point.
I mean, that's why it's funny usually, because where there's a little smoke, there's fire, right? And you know, that's kind of like with like stereotypes. That's kind of why stereotypes exist, because
there's a reason.
You know, there's a reason. Yeah. There's usually a little bit of truth there, and that's why people, you know, make comments and make fun of things like that. Usually, there's a little bit of truth to that. You know, people aren't just like making that up and saying it for no reason.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, so when it comes to back end development, talk about that. What's been your experience?
Well, I mean, so traditionally, I would say I wanted to be a full stack developer. And I would say, you know, I'm knowledgeable on back end. There's just so much that goes into web development these days that I feel like it's impossible to be great at every aspect of all of it, right? So yeah, I could say I'm a full stack developer and get along in the back end and get along in the front end. But you know, in my experience and just with my background being in kind of more in the visual space with graphic design and kind of more front end heavy, on the build side of things, there's tools, you know, like, hosting tools like Netlify and even like, I'm not sure if you heard of like Replit or some of these. There's a lot of like new tools out there that make it extremely easy for you just to basically get, you know, a cloud database up and going in like no time, and you can connect it and host it for free. And I guess essentially what I'm trying to say is all my needs that I would have for any of my back end needs, I can pretty easily kind of tie them in and get them covered, with some of these tools that are out these days fairly easily. If it gets to be too more complex, like I have to, you know, have some really complex database built or anything like that, I'm probably searching through some tutorials or looking for some additional help.
Yeah. So talk about your website. Well, first off, all right, let me rethink the question. I've always wanted to, people tell me you can host a website for free. How do I host a website for free?
So Netlify is how I'm hosting my website for free. Typically it connects to your GitHub, which is a code repository. Just, you know, for people that don't know what even that is a website that stores is like a code bank. It stores your code there for you under your profile. It connects to that, and it essentially, it's a static, cloud host that will serve your files on their cloud, essentially, to an extent. So it's like a free tier. The thing being that most, you know, 99.9% of personal static websites or small business static websites are going to be small enough and not use enough data, essentially, or get enough traffic to where you're going to have to pay for something like that. But yeah, more or less it's a service that you create an account and you can upload your files, and they give you space on their cloud, and you point your domain to their name servers, and fires it up.
Yeah, so that was my next question. How does the domain authority work?
So they can give you a security ticket, so you can have the HTTPS, and then the domain, they have their own domain name provider, or not domain name provider, their like DNS area. So you can handle all that through Netlify. So you can add all your own DNS entries that you would need to have. You can hook into custom like email, all that stuff.
Cool. So, what other free places are there to host?
There's, I think, there's a couple of them. Cloudflare, I think, like Amazon's got one and Google has one. You know, a lot of these have like free tiers where you can put a static site up and serve your site to an extent for free each month. I think Heroku is another one. A lot of it kind of depends on the site that you have and the type of website that you have will determine the type of hosting that you need, right? So if you have an e-commerce website, you're selling products, things like that, that's not going to be free. You're going to have some kind of paid hosting support to for all those things, so you can support security, things like that. For just a basic website with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files, something like Netlify, like I was talking about, would be fine as well. If you're using like WordPress or something like that, typically you would probably go a different route for hosting, and it might be, you know, something minimal, $10 or $20 a month. So it's all kind of about, you know, picking the right tool for the job, and, you know, just kind of knowing where to look. I will say that, like, I think that kind of the what's called a headless website setup and kind of hosting in the cloud, like how Netlify is doing with these services, where you can get set up, they have a free tier, and it just kind of all connects together. I think that's kind of the direction I see a lot of these services going, especially with like AI these days and how easy it's making a lot of these things to accessible to people that, you know, maybe they wouldn't have wanted to take on building their own website a year or two ago, but now it's pretty easy with just typing it into ChatGPT and some of these other tools. It's pretty easy to figure it out, and you could have your own site up and going, you know, inside of a day for, you know, under $10, if not free, like maybe the cost of the domain.
Yeah, that's a good point. So as you were talking, I was thinking about how I've done that before, and I hosted it through the school server when I was going to school.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a file on Mozilla Firefox, and then what you explained, like, okay, that makes sense. So I'm just thinking, it's like, what is the code that goes from the server, the website server, to the GitHub repository that pulls the HTML code? I just don't remember that.
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, we could look. It's literally like, so if I sign into Netlify, it's like, it's literally a drop down, and I've connected my GitHub to this service previously, so they're linked together. They can both of those accounts can see their information. So it's literally, I go on Netlify, it says, you know, add a new site or start a new site, and, you know, I just select from the drop down, you know, connect from the source, and then it says has my GitHub repository listed there, and I say connect, and then it'll build that page. It designates me a temporary domain. So some, like, hanging antlers or something .netlify.app, and then it will serve my site at that address, and I can use that, look at it, share it with anybody, and it lives there. And it's essentially, it's just pulling from those files that are on that repository and serving those out. Exactly how it's doing that, I'm not 100% sure on the ins and outs of how that exactly works. And then from there, you can go and start connecting your personal domain, and start using the Netlify DNS, things like that. You don't have to use their DNS or anything, but you can.
Do you know how to add in plugins to a Squarespace website?
Well, they have their own ecosystem.
Yeah.
Squarespace, it's a lot like Shopify plugins, right? So people that are making Squarespace plugins, I'm not 100% sure like what language they're built in. If I had to guess, it would be some kind of JavaScript plugin.
I think it's HTML.
Yeah.
Because I can like add shit into the headers, but I don't bother to because that make me pay more money just to do that shit.
Yeah. So I'm not 100% sure on the plugins. Yeah. Probably could build them. I'm not familiar with it. Like I said, they have their own, like Shopify or Squarespace has their own marketplace of their own plugins, right? And kind of like it's like Google extensions too. Same idea. These are marketplaces with their plugins and their add-ons essentially that are built around that setup and that ecosystem.
Yeah, what do you think about the current world of Google plugins for Google Chrome extension plugins?
I don't know. I was actually just looking at this the other day because I mean, I've got a few extensions that I use like for work and things like that, but I was looking at it from the stance of like, how can I make money from this? Because I saw that there's some people making a significant amount of money just from Google Chrome extensions. I don't know if it's like just an untapped market or if it's something that came and went and I'm just finding out about this, a year or two too late. Or if it's still relevant, but I think with, I have seen some recently that are like Google extensions that are like tie in with like ChatGPT type, like AI type, Google extensions. I think there's a lot of potential and possibility there. But yeah, I think that's kind of like an untapped market. And especially on like the local business level too. I think that there's some problems that people could solve like locally, like from a local marketing standpoint, that you could probably make a Chrome extension that they could use or that you could sell, that people would have use for on like a local level, Maybe it doesn't have to be some universal extension that everyone can install and it just works amazingly, but you might be able to solve some kind of use case, on a micro level.
Yeah. So how is your website coded?
My website was coded in Nuxt.
Nuxt?
It's called Nuxt.js, cool. Which is extension of Vue. Did we lose the video? So essentially Nuxt is just like an extension of Vue, which is a front end framework, JavaScript framework. Yeah, when I say front end, I'm basically talking about what people see when they go to a website versus the back end, which is like database and storage of information.
Yeah, cool. Nux, never heard of that.
Have you heard of React?
I've heard of React.
Okay, so it's in the same family.
Cool.
A cousin of React, you could say.
So how is it different from HTML?
So it's not. At the end of the day, it is HTML. It's HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And what I like about this framework is essentially it has your template, which is like your HTML, your CSS, which is your styling, how the HTML looks, and it has your JavaScript and your script tags all in the same file. So it makes it really easy to kind of understand and break down mentally how you're constructing the different pieces of this website. So like a lot of times that one file will be what's called a component. And you can really mentally break down what's happening and I feel like a lot easier using a framework like Vue or Nuxt, because you can see the structure in one spot, and then the next section is the visual, how it looks, and then the next section is what is it doing and how does it function. And then you just build that out, and then once you understand that, then it's just plugging that into the bigger picture or wherever you need that inside the project. And really it's the whole project just comes down to understanding of breaking it down, the different pieces down like that. Okay, this page has this, it has a navigation, what does it need to do? Okay, this is the home page, it goes here, it has these components, this button that does this. All right, on to the next page, and so forth. And it's just kind of breaking things down and not getting too ahead of yourself and just looking at it like one thing at a time, making sure they all tie together. A big thing in web development is making sure that it looks good on all screen sizes.
Yeah.
What we call responsive design, which will actually hurt your Google rankings. If you don't have a responsive website, you're not going to show up in Google as well as you could be as if you did have a responsive website. So it should look different on your phone, and it should still look good on your phone, but different than it does on, your gaming PC. But clearly, you're on the same site. So,
yeah, true. I bet that's something you must have to have two separate scripts and two separate files for on your GitHub, like one for mobile and one for desktop.
Yeah, and not two different scripts. A lot of that comes down to the CSS and the styling. So when the page first loads, it's telling the rest of the project how big that screen is, and so where things need to load and how it needs to perform essentially when that screen loads. And so I'm taking into account, depending on how fine-tuned you want to get it, you can break it down. The traditional way would be to do it for mobile, cell phone, tablet, and then desktop. So you'd have like three different
Optimized for tablet.
Yeah,
I
sometimes.
didn't even think of that.
Yeah. And then if you really want to get into the weeds, then you got to think about like on mobile, if people, or actually any screen size, but like if on mobile, if they turn their screen to the side, you know, a lot of times it's really easy to break stuff and make it find inconsistencies, make it feel broken. It's hard to completely bulletproof something, you know.
Yeah, how do you fix that shit?
It's
like
really
when
hard.
they turn it, and I could just everything you're talking about. I'm thinking of like scenarios where I would be throwing things against the wall in anger because it's like, why is our margins off? Why is this shit off? Why is it?
Yeah.
What is going on? What am I doing wrong? And then you're like, oh no shit, or whatever.
Yeah, I used to get frustrated at my previous job as well. Like when I was trying to do like error handling, things like that. When people are working on, I'm assuming they know what to input into a form field, right? If I'm asking for a phone number, I'm assuming that they know to put in numbers and like how a phone number works, right? But you're not thinking of, the certain that there's going to be some weird edge case out there where if you don't think someone can do it, or they're going to do it, or they're going to try and do it, like their name's not going to fit or something, they're going to call and complain, and they're going to try and do that. Mm-hmm. You know, if there's an edge case for it, someone's going to find a way to basically be that dumb and do that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you just have to be really thorough, I guess, and just do your best. I try not to lose too much sleep over it. But all you can do is do your best and, try and count for as many people as you can. Make it as accessible as you can. One thing in web development these days that a lot of people don't consider, but is becoming a big deal, is accessibility, which is for people that have some kind of impairment, so they can't read the screen very well, so they use a screen reader to assist them, or a keyboard, some kind of keyboard assistant, or a hearing assistant, something. So your website needs to be able to navigate through correctly for these people, so they can still use your site and see what's going on, so that when they're hitting tab, or they're trying to go down and read the rest of your hero or your intro paragraph, it's not taking them, from your logo to your exit page to your sign up, and then to your exiting them off the page or something, and they haven't even seen it, or it's trying to describe some image that's not even what it is, or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's a big thing too to be conscious of. So there's a lot that goes into web development. It's a lot more than just making a pretty website. There's a lot of things to consider in addition to that, and in addition to making it, having it be an extension of you and your business, and setting you apart from the next guy too. You don't want to just have some cookie cutter website as well. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, yours is freaking awesome. So you coded all that in HTML,
CSS, and JavaScript. Yeah, I use a animation library called Greensock animation library, and yeah, it's just CSS and JavaScript, manipulating the browser and moving pixels around on the screen.
That looks like it's a lot of fun. Have you had much experience on WordPress?
The WordPress. I think every developer has a little bit of a love-hate relationship with WordPress.
Yeah.
Because I think everyone gets asked that question, is what do you feel about WordPress? Or how do you know WordPress? And I think it's just because it's kind of like naturally the first thing that a lot of people reach for, you know. A good majority of the internet's websites are built on WordPress. You know, it's kind of like the OG website builder from back in the day. And, you know, I remember WordPress. It was like WordPress and Dreamweaver, and that was it.
Yeah.
I think WordPress is a really powerful tool. You could niche down and be a WordPress expert, WordPress developer. You could have a WordPress agency. You can, you know, make WordPress themes, and there's people that specialize in that. I personally don't know PHP strongly enough to consider myself a WordPress developer. And I say that because I feel like to be a WordPress developer, or to be building, you need to be building custom WordPress themes, not just customizing existing themes or changing the way, you know, like changing the backgrounds or colors and installing plugins and things like that. I can go in and set up a WordPress site. I can install the plugins. I can, you know, get 95% of the way there, but I am not comfortable enough, I would say, to develop a custom theme from scratch. There's a lot that goes into WordPress, and there's a lot of ins and outs and things that you need to know. There's multiple ways to skin a cat for a number of different things that you'd like to do there. So it's a lot. I think it's a great tool to use if you know what you're doing and you're using it correctly. And it's really powerful. But I think also at the same time, it's kind of like, you know, why do you want to use WordPress? Or it's just, I mentioned earlier about like using the right tool for the job. A lot of times, you know, WordPress may not be the right tool for the job, or someone might want a little bit more custom solution, or, you know, other times it is the perfect solution. So it's just kind of what you're looking for. I personally, I'm comfortable with it. I like it. I don't mind it. And I think it has a lot to offer. And I think guys that are really good, like expert WordPress developers, I think that they're cranking out some beautiful websites, but, that's just like a whole specialty in itself. You know,
Well, you taught me something.
Those guys are experts, and it's like its own niche, and it's like its own niche in its field. You know, so it's like its own beast.
True.
And so like
yeah,
I
didn't even realize, because I had started off with Squarespace, all right, for one of my websites, and I'm just eating it on that, all right. Because it would be pointless. I'm not going to waste my time moving domains and shit and rebuilding crap, you know. And then, so I'm like, okay, I want to build a new website, and I'm going to host it on WordPress because I can at least deploy a machine learning model to it on a WordPress website, which you can't do on a Squarespace website. You can't deploy a machine learning model in any way. And so I went to WordPress, and it was kind of frustrating for me at first, trying to figure out the elements and where the meeting. But once you take a day of getting really frustrated and clicking and trying to learn, then you figure out the flow of how to just get a basic site up.
Yeah.
You know? And then there's all the cool fancy plugins that WordPress has to offer, which I haven't even attempted to mess with. But one thing I want to do is I want to start deploying machine learning models to it. And so I'm thinking about what's the best way to deploy a machine learning model. So I've been listening to things such as, you can, if you're not expecting a lot of traffic, host it from Flask. If you are expecting traffic, you can host it from Mongo and some other places too.
Like AWS, like
you
Amazon
could host from
Web Services.
AWS if you wanted.
That's probably where I would look, because they've got a lot of good of their own like AI models that you can use too, like already set up. One thing, like when I'm thinking of like what tool I want to use, it's like, oh, well, like why would you want to use WordPress, right? So is there, because like you're saying, like you're kind of, once you're in WordPress, you're integrated into that system, so whether it's, maybe there's a theme that you want to use that you really like, because that's kind of their big thing, is there's a bunch of WordPress themes that people have built out, and then you can just like install their theme or build their theme, and then it's more or less just switching out the pictures and the text and things like that to make it look like your website. WordPress at the end of the day is a CMS. It's a content management system, right? So that allows you to, like you're saying, it's a place for you to store your data and your content, whether that's blog posts or YouTube videos that you want to post. A lot of times they're posts, but sometimes it's like maybe someone's like updating recipes, or they're updating availability on a price list for homes they have for sale, or whatever. So yeah, WordPress is a CMS at the end of the day. WordPress has recently come out with what's called like a headless CMS, to where you can use one of these front end frameworks, like I was talking about, React or Nuxt, which gives you complete control of the front end as a developer or designer. So you can control what it looks like, everything, what the client can change. If you want them to be able to edit out the title on the homepage, you can do that. If you don't want to do that, you can change that too. Gives you complete control. And then there's a number of CMSs. WordPress has one now that you can use, but then there's other CMSs that you can use that you can tie into as well, that give you the same option, where you can, for like if I was passing this website off to a client, it still allows them to have an admin user where they can log in to their back end area, and they can edit all those predetermined areas and fields that I mentioned earlier that you had figured out, based on like what their website needs are. Because a lot of times, sometimes WordPress might be a little bit overkill too. Maybe you just want like a simple homepage and about page, and you might have like one or two products or something you're selling, or it's just a contact form or something like that, and or you have a way more custom approach, or whatever it may be. So it's really kind of wild how many different options and solutions potentially there are out there, based on what your idea is and what you're trying to get done. If you're trying to, and to your point, like to host an AI model, like what kind of AI model are you hosting? Is it some kind of like app where someone like takes a picture and you want the model to tell you what it is? Or is it people going to a website and they're like inputting information, so like, or are they leaving comments? So like all of these things are things to consider. Is it just a static website that you're just displaying something where there's really no user interaction? So all these things are things to consider, when you're thinking about, where is this going to live? Where am I going to host this? Do I need WordPress? Do I need a different framework? How am I going to make this? Can I just use HTML and CSS, or, so it's pretty wild these days what you can do with the internet and with a lot of these services, and what they're doing nowadays. But I don't know. I feel like all that stuff's super interesting.
I feel
just
like I'm
like
just
how powerful it all is.
Like I'm just barely figuring it out. I mean,
Yeah.
and I like hearing you saying things that reconfirm what I've heard before, which is good. And I also, you've brought up some good points of search engine optimization.
Mm-hmm.
You should optimize for mobile.
Yeah.
And so I was thinking about that. I'm like, man, if I was to do what you did, just put a file on GitHub, find some platform, like a content management platform that you're hosting from, and then not have the code, the HTML code of the mobile version, my website wouldn't even rank. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm just lucky that Squarespace and WordPress already have those built in, so I don't have to worry about that.
Yep, they make it easy. That's kind of the sell, is like, well, we've built this, giant ecosystem that will cover all the bases, and we're basically set up. It's a plug and play, and they make it easy for you in that sense of, type in your business name, make it, this will look good, and it shows up good. And that's really like, that's step one, that's like what people need to have. If they don't have anything at all, they need to have something, because I talked about this at a networking group this morning. I was saying, it's like the majority of people, their first point of contact with you or your small business is going to be online. It's your digital identity. It's, best restaurant near me, best electrician, in my neighborhood, or, whatever it may be, coolest podcaster in Spokane. You want it to show up, and that's going to be their first point of contact. And so if their first point of contact are either A, they can't find you, or it's just non-listing or a post or something mentioning some business, or it's a website, like you said, that's not mobile optimized and looks like it was made in 1995 when the internet was just coming out, and or they just it comes off as if in the business world it comes off as unprofessional. I feel like, and people don't care.
No, you're right.
And so
yours is freaking awesome.
People, I appreciate that. And so I feel like people, like, you have 10 seconds, if not less, to capture their attention and to create that first impression. So why not, like, invest in that and make it a representation of yourself, and make it you and make it good. 'Cause it is so important.
I agree. We live in the attention economy.
Seriously.
And there's a lot of businesses that are, just like you, or can claim to do what you do, or whatever it is. If you're a butcher, baker, candlestick maker, and they're going to that website, and by your website, they know you and they judge you. And
it's always amazing me too. Like when a company is like hesitant to invest in a website or their web presence in general, or marketing, things like that. Their brand, essentially, because it's like they won't think twice about spending $10,000 or $20,000 on a new piece of equipment, that would help them get a job done faster. But they get hung up on the idea of spending $10,000 or $20,000 on something that would, is essentially the face of their company. That could be the difference of them getting, another project or two a month, And so when you put it in terms like that, it's like, okay, well, you're here. If you want to go over here, what would another 2 projects a month do for your business, And when you frame it like that, a lot of times, it's, X amount times more than what the initial investment would be. And I don't understand where the hang up is. A lot of times it's like, okay, you might be able to get the job done or makes it the job a little bit easier. That's great to invest in that too, but you also shouldn't be investing over here, because this is a long-term investment that will also be getting you more leads, more business in the long run. And if something has the opportunity to bring you in 2 more projects that are, in the tens of thousands of dollars a month, why wouldn't you invest in something like that? Because 9 times out of 10, if I go to someone's website, or I can't find them, or they have bad Google reviews, it's on to the next guy, And,
yeah. Google business profile,
and
man, that shit's powerful.
On to the next guy, and it's just that's my personal experience.
And you're like a lot of people. That's how they see it. They have a problem that needs to get solved. So, like, for example, when my vehicle broke down in Ritzville, Washington, it sucked. I had to find a towing.
Yeah.
And there's like 2 towing places in Ritzville, but one of the towing places has got the market cornered by creating numerous websites with all the keywords.
Yep.
And it all directs back to the same phone number.
So they're on it, so
Yeah.
they're more likely to come pick you up. They're probably going to be competitive with their pricing. They're going to call you back, and they'll probably get there pretty quick too.
Yeah, and that's how I feel that sales funnel should probably be as well, if you're in a more competitive industry like that, like tow truck, like those smaller trades that people need. And hell, maybe even like software development or artificial intelligence or whatever. So when I just created my latest website in April, it's Spokane AI, literally Spokane AI, just so I can be number 1. Right now I'm competing with Spokane International Airport. Yeah. But I feel you too, man. Like, right now, the tech scene sucks. It's people, they think it's just bougie shit.
It's rough out there.
It is, especially with data. Like, they're like, that's just some bougie data shit. We don't got money for that. We don't know where we're going to be in 5 years. We don't even care where we're going to be in 5 years. And a lot of your small businesses are going to be like that too.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. And it's rough out there. I mean, just in the whole tech industry, I feel like is probably pretty rough out there. And I know there was multiple layoffs going on around the industry the last year or two. So like
Amazon and Google laid off a bunch of people.
Yep, it was really hard as a job seeker. I know for a long time, probably still is. I've been a little more focused on my business lately, but it was really hard there. People sending out hundreds and hundreds of applications and not even getting, a call back or an interview set up. Just really kind of disheartening, And yeah, like you said, with everything changing so much with AI and all these things making it so easy, it's like, shoot, man, I'm looking around. Am I going to have a job here, in a year's time? But, to that point, I think that there's always going to need to be someone that's kind of driving the bus, so it's just kind of like how you can adapt, to the market and to what people's needs are. There's always going to be a need for developers and, computer folk.
And web scrapers and data aggregators.
And web scrapers and
so have you dealt with web scraping at all?
I haven't done it too much. I've been curious about it, interested in it. I bought this tool probably 10 years ago now. It was called Scrapebox, I think. I bought it off of blackhatworld.com. And it was a tool it was supposed to help you, I think, create backlinks.
Okay.
Aggregate backlinks and post backlinks.
Gotcha.
There's a black hat tool for.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it's called Scrapebox. But other than that, not much. So I'm curious to hear if you have any insight to share with me. What's like some cool tidbits?
Well, Scrapebox was the first thing I created.
Are you familiar with?
I'm familiar with scraping all the backlinks off a website, and all. Yeah, I can scrape all links by just with Python code, by sending the crawlers out using. Well, you use Beautiful Soup for the text, but for the links you send out the crawlers. I forget which fucking library I used in Python, but you look for that anchor tag, the A/.
Wait, you've made a program like that before?
Yeah,
right on.
Coded it in Python. Yeah, that was part of my master's degree.
Are you familiar with Black Hat World then?
Well,
or the are you familiar with the pieces like that software that I'm talking about?
I'm familiar with software scripts that can do that.
That do that?
Yeah, that can get all the backlinks. So I did that. I remember one time I got all the backlinks from the Marine Corps' headquarters Marine Corps website, and I posted it online. Everyone's like, why though? And I'm like, yeah, I know, just to show that I can. It's a public website, it doesn't matter. But the question is, what problem do you think you could solve with the scraping? Like, there's a lot of reasons why people would want to scrape things.
Yeah, like for leads or...
Yeah, like whether it's like traffic data, phishing data, something like like bunch of data from a bunch of websites that come back, so you have this data set that you can explore.
Yeah, so I've got a couple ideas on
Okay.
things that I would be interested in using that for. First one would be river levels and coinciding that with hatches for like fly fishing.
Oh, gotcha.
And like you could compare that to like historical past seasons and things like that, and then use that to create a chart and like start mapping like a chart for different hotspots and good fishing areas on different rivers for and then like guides could use that for like marketing materials and things like that, and put it in like fishing shops and stuff like that.
That's cool. I like that. So monitoring river tides. Yeah, just even just levels. That. Yeah, even just that metric, river levels alone could probably interpolate a lot of data off of that.
My family has got a fly fishing lodge over in Melrose, Montana. My uncle's been working at it. My parents work there, and they all live there and run this fly fishing lodge for as long as I can remember, since I was a little kid. And so yeah, that's kind of where I came up with the fly fishing idea.
That's not bad. I love fly fishing.
Fly fishing app like that.
Yeah, I used to tie my own flies. I had an obsession with it. I had the whole roll cast and everything down, and yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, I've got a pretty good idea for an AI powered app, actually, fly fishing app. We can chat a little more after the podcast. I don't want to give all my secrets away.
Yeah,
but yeah, pretty cool. It has to do with identifying certain stuff on the river.
Oh, okay. Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, well, and that's partly why I love YouTube too. Like, for example, it's fishing for humans, right? It's fishing for views. And each video I make, it's like I'm creating my own fly, right?
Yeah.
And like whether it's the length of the video, where I edited it, where I added little words and whatnot, the time that I upload it, the time you go fishing is important, people. And what I did as it was trending, you know, as the fish was on, as it was going, you know, like how did I keep it going? By
clickbait.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and sometimes I don't even.
You're making the clickbait.
Yes, if you're right. How do you get people? Well, first off,
bait.
Yeah, how do you get?
Bait.
And so it's a two-part thing for me. The first part is how do you get people to click on a link? Well, no, first part is how do you convince the machines to put the content in front of people?
Yeah.
Then the next question is how do you get the people to bite on that? So if you think of your content as your fishing line and the machine is the drone and it picks it up and it puts it in front of people, and you've already like identified ways to do that, like top this, best whatever.
Yeah, it's like a claw machine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're in a claw machine of like, here's the stuffed animals, here's like the candy claw machine. So you're like, you're in the right category. It's just like, how do you get the person's eye to make them want to drop down and grab you?
Yeah, exactly. And in fact, I'm going to show this off because this was a video that I made yesterday because my sister is the director of Omi Gardens in Wenatchee, Washington, and she booked this comic named Gabriel Rutledge. Gabriel Rutledge is a Washington State.
Who's your most underrated comic that you would say right now?
Right now it's Gabriel Rutledge because he just got me 3.5 thousand views.
This is him?
Yeah, so this is him. We'll listen to him right here. Shorts, go to shorts and play.
My mom bought my first condoms. I'm not proud to tell you that, but it's my wedding, so fuck it. Here we go. When I moved out after high school, my mom was so worried about me. She went to Costco and bought me condoms. It was a very optimistic store for the birth control needs we had at that time. We did not need to go wholesale. That's a borderline prank to buy a virgin 148 condoms. It's like, oh, I thought you might need these.
That's pretty funny.
Honestly, she should have bought me one condom and said, put this on your vision board. My mom bought...
Yeah, it's Gabriel Rutledge, everybody. He killed. He was really, really good. I remember showing up to it because I was in Wenatchee, and my sister... I was in Wenatchee for a FunFlix event because I was working a different event. But the following day, because I have a bunch of family in Wenatchee, so I was staying at my mom's house. So the following day, I was doing a bunch of yard work, and we went over to Omi Gardens to try to steal my sister's trailer to use it for your garden stuff. And that was like, yeah. Either way, we got caught, and then she's like, "You're gonna be a wine server tonight at the comedy show." I'm like, "Okay, that's fine." So I showed up in a collared shirt and whatnot, but she's like, "You're gonna be an usher." I'm like, okay, and I ushered people in, and then I saw him, Gabriel Rutledge. I was like, "Oh shit, no shit, she got him. That's fucking awesome."
So you knew who he was beforehand?
Oh yeah, from Facebook.
Nice.
He's definitely blowing up on. Well, he was on Dry Bar. He was on some things. He's been around. He gets around. But he's a Washington local though.
Really?
Yeah. He's
cool.
Like from the west side of the state somewhere.
That's cool.
Yeah. So
you watch a lot of stand-up comedy?
I love it. I like going to the open mic nights. I practice my own bits, though I haven't done stand-up. I haven't practiced stand-up in years.
Have you done stand-up before?
Oh yeah.
Nice.
Oh yeah, it was in the Marine Corps. I had
Right on,
I had a lot of bits, a lot of practice standing in front of people and just coming out with my alter ego.
That's awesome.
Yeah, which was based off of the old World War II veterans. Yeah.
Okay.
So they're a different generation.
We might have to get some whiskey out or something sometime.
Yeah, I've been thinking about
coax some out for a return.
Yeah, I've been thinking about actually just getting an old man mask and putting it on.
Oh my
God. But I gotta tailor the bits so that civilians can understand them, because a lot of it is like Marine Corps history, kind of, but some of it's kind of funny.
Well, it sounds like you kind of got your angle figured out a little bit. Like, I forget who's the one guy that always like gets on stage and takes his shirt off. Have you seen that comic?
I know who you're talking about. Is he white?
Yeah.
Matt Rife.
No,
not Matt Rife.
No, he's funny though too. I thought his name was like Bart or Bert or something.
I don't know.
Anyways, but there's a guy that goes out. First thing he does is takes his shirt off, or he comes out with his shirt off. Does the whole thing with no shirt on.
Damn,
it's like the most weirdest thing. But I don't know. I guess he just kind of leans into it. But gotta do what you gotta do. I was kind of like, I gave a BNI presentation a couple weeks ago, and like I was super nervous. And first thing I did, I was like, all right. I got up there. I was like, I need everyone just to like stare at me for like a good 30 seconds and just let me just like soak in this awkwardness for a minute, and let's just get it out of the way first of all, like right at the beginning, and then we can move on. And did that, got out of the way, and then the rest of the presentation went pretty well. So
yeah,
so I guess there might be something to his technique.
There is. I got this.
Yeah.
I just go out. I pretend. No, I'm
adventure miner.
Yeah, data mining Mike, adventure diver, or adventure. Yeah, I got to rebrand that to like America's data miner or some shit like that.
Yeah. And what are you holding in your hand in that picture?
This glass ball. It's a glass ball with a little.
Looks like there's like a little feather or a flower or something inside of it.
It's a little lotus flower, and it's kind of data analytics play on words thing. Like, yeah, there you go. So, yeah, like you can see into the future with data, kind of a gypsy thing. I mean, it's upside down, but if you look at it at a certain, that's the lotus. And then if you look at it, it looks like an eyeball when you look at it from the underside. So, yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of nifty little thing. I'm powerless without it.
Yeah.
Without this, I'm nothing. I'm a nobody. Without my hat, I'm a nobody. I'm just a normal fucking person like everybody else. And then, yeah.
So what kind of stuff are you searching for when you're looking through data? Or you have specific, like just project to project specific things? Or are you ever curious about stuff and so you just go on a hunt and start scraping?
That is what I do. I haven't done anything much with scraping because I don't have a need to yet. Like for a project, like a personal project, like such as go to numerous websites, get daily information on something, track it, and visualize it, analyze it in a machine learning model of some sort. I haven't had any need to because I've got so much fucking data that's already compiled. Mm-hmm. That's just big data that like over 95% of the world's data is unexplored. And I'm out there like fucking forerunner with my hat and shit.
So are you just like categorizing it? So like, give me an example. Are you saying like, say, are you doing like political, like, guesses and things like that? Or because you mentioned you were working with the Washington voter.
Yep, GOP. And so
voter people trying to get people to vote.
Yeah.
So
I can visualize the data. I can use these things called unsupervised machine learning models, and they can see patterns in the data that we can't. And so, for example, I've done a lot of things. One of the things I've done was visualize earmarks or pork in congressional bills. taking a regular congressional text, just Word doc, and converting it to a text file, finding all of the keywords, visualizing all the keywords in this thing called a word cloud, which shows you the higher frequency count of words. But then using this thing called k-means cluster analysis and visualize the bill in 3D space. And as you add more clusters to the analysis, you'll see more strata in the bill, and you'll see it form an actual rectangle. And you can see where there's density in the bill and what strata it's identifying as you add more groups to it. So it's like, oh, that's that strata right there, that section in the bill. So that's got, yeah.
When you say strata or like a section, are you talking about like different categories and like inconsistencies or things that would be similar and similarities and differences, more or less?
Yeah, so there's differences. So if I say I want to find what are the main groups that are different, and I say by 3, and it will show me 3 groups that are different. So like right here, if I go to how to see pork in congressional bills, and let me go all the way down. Yeah, add a bunch of cool little funny things in here. If not, like people bounce because they're really boring documentaries of just code. But either way, these are all the word counts of the bill, so you'll know that something's an earmark most likely because it'll begin with the word provided. Yeah, so like something like that. And then if I go down to visualizing it, and this is where I'm trying to find correlations between parts of the bill. This part right here is where I'm visualizing the bill, and I can see these little bumps in the tail. So this is a left skewed distribution, but you notice how down here there's a bump in the tail.
Yeah.
That means it's unsymmetrical. So that's a thing called Benford's law. Benford's law is a way that people in accounting try to hide things, or in political campaigns try to hide things.
That's what I was going to ask you. So could this be used to kind of sift through some of these ridiculous bills that get tried to pass through at like 2 a.m. that are, 6,000 pages long and have a bunch of bullshit that don't even pertain to what the bill's supposed to actually be, and they're trying to slip in all this extra fluff. They try and slip in all the extra fluff.
Yep.
So they can't see.
Yeah, this
would that help track that?
This
or catch it essentially.
I caught it right here. You can see in each division of the bill where they're packing all the money, right? So a bill is just a reverse budget. So what this does is it reduces 1,050 pages of a bill into 827 instances of top line spending. So it finds the 827 instances, the most earmarks, and then I visualize them. This is all k-means for the divisions for different groups, but it's when I do k-means for the entire data set. For one group, it's just kind of like flat. It doesn't make much sense. 2 groups, kind of flat, but then we start to see somewhat of this rectangular shape, right? And then as we add 3 groups, we can see there's this rectangular shape here, and then as we add more groups, we see the rectangular shape, and we see different color strata getting showcased that it's finding. So k-means is like, so if we reduce everything to 1, 2, 3, 4 groups, then that would mean that this strata right here in this portion of the bill is statistically significant compared to other groups.
In some way.
So it's that the machines can
different.
See,
yeah.
That I can't. I mean, there's
interesting. So that seems like that would be very useful to like politicians and people making some of these important decisions to help them scan through these documents and these stuff to be able to make a informed decision quicker.
Yeah.
Or, so are they doing this?
I'm the first one to do it.
What's up?
Yeah, I know. So
I don't know if that's more shocking, or the fact that only 500 people around the whole world have donated to or bought political Google ads.
Yeah, I'm not. You know what? I've looked at what other people have tried to do. I'm like, okay, I can't be the only motherfucker. But then again, I've done a lot of things like this.
Yeah.
Where I'm the first one to find it in the data, the first one to do it. But that's not saying much. I mean, when you're like me, when you're a data scientist, it's fucking lonely. You know, it's really fucking lonely. I mean, nobody cares to go through all this shit.
Have you looked at like any more like conspiracy type?
Shit, I doxed
data?
all the lobbyists. So all the Washington State's lobbyists, I got all their data because that's publicly available. And I just made it more consumable for people. So the government hides their data in CSV files. And then they hide it in a data swamp called data.gov.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, it's publicly available. Good luck finding it and wading through all the other things like, oh, fucking sperm count of the Mississippi mud shrimp.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
Like then you got like 500 data sets on Mississippi mud shrimp dick sizes and shit before you get to, oh, Washington State lobbyists. No shit. Who's funding who? And then, yeah, there's other repositories where you can find this stuff, but I usually I look at how much money, you know, like what's the biggest month. February is the biggest month for lobbyists to get money in Washington State. It looks like lobbyists' money has been increasing. Money to lobbyists has increased over time. What's the best day? It seems like the lobbyists get their most money between the 15th and the 18th of each month.
I wonder why it's February.
I don't know.
That's kind of odd.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like people get some of their tax returns and they just automatically just donate. That's when they make their donations or something. Or
that's a good point. I didn't even think of that.
Who knows?
Maybe they get their yeah, you're right. Get their tax returns, make some lobbyist donations. Here's the top 20 who has been donating to lobbyists. The SEIU 775 donated $10,592,960.
What organization is that?
SEIU. They're a liberal workers union. So they don't. Yeah. I take the time to go and investigate, you know, who these people are.
You do?
Yeah, like a Vista Corporation. A Vista Corporation here has donated $291,000 to lobbyists. No, I'm mistaken. $2,916,304 to lobbyists.
Wow.
From the time that spanning this data set. So, and I'll make these little visualizations too, and then I'll try to run machine learning models to predict what's what. I think the most lucrative thing that I found that really helps people out the most, that can help you out, is how to win government contracts.
That's what you were saying.
Yeah, so that's like, and then I had Ernesto Perez on the podcast too. Yeah, this is the one. And so I did this thing called market basket analysis, and market basket analysis compares like if you bought like diapers, you're gonna buy beer. All right, yeah. So like that's a common occurrence.
Really? So like things like that are in the same carts together, basically.
Yeah.
Like steak and cheese or steak and wine or whatever.
That's why eggs and milk are in the back of the store. Because most people will come for eggs and milk, and they'll buy and bounce. And people realize that. And then in the 90s, the Walmart Corporation learned that through machine learning, through market basket analysis, which is really powerful. And it's much more powerful than any of the large language models or ChatGPT. ChatGPT can't do a lot of the things that these smaller but more powerful large language models can do, that are much more statistically sound than ChatGPT or anything could be.
And that's really interesting. I knew that you were supposed to stay on the outside, the borders of the grocery store for like healthier eating and healthier food, and not like going down the aisles. Because
down the aisles.
The aisles have all like the processed, boxed, frozen stuff.
But
I didn't know that about the milk and the eggs. But now that you say that, it's absolutely true.
Milk and the eggs, condoms and lube, all the other stuff. So yeah, in this blog article, if you go and you bid for a government contract and you just plug these keywords into your bid, you're going to win 75% of the time.
Really?
Yeah.
What kind of projects do they have on there?
All sorts of them.
Really?
There's over 2,000 state agencies in Washington. That's just Washington times 50. And then you can apply to do government contracts in numerous state agencies. I mean, they all need web development. They all need web updating. But yeah, it's just a matter of getting signed up through the Department of Enterprise Services and getting your business verified, and they have to go to you because you're part of the cooperative purchase. So that means you're a verified, vetted business. So if they need like web building services, they have to go to that list first.
Yeah, so they fill out their project list. We have this problem or this need, and then they start accepting bids for it.
Well, there's two ways they do it. They could either say, hey, we got this project coming up and we need web development for X number of time, and these are all the milestones, and here's the solicitation requirements. That's what it's called. You read the solicitation requirements of the bid. You go and you fill out the 14 sections of the bid, and when you do, be sure to add those keywords like this web building is focused on the end user.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So is there a person, or is it a computer on the other end?
That's human. Seven humans
scanning for these
7 humans
keywords.
Will evaluate your bid,
and they're looking for the keywords.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so it is when I had Ernesto Perez, the guy who's in charge of Department of Enterprise Services, on the podcast, and he was talking all about the whole process and what it is and how it works, and
that's basically, he said it was that easy.
Yeah, there's a lot of money that the government gives out when they do stimulus and shit. When they say they're trying to create jobs, this is what they're doing. They give a bunch of state agencies all the money, right? And then the state agencies say, we got all this money, let's do all these things, let's hire all these businesses by creating contracts. And then they post the contracts on all the portals where you go to find the contract. So specifically state agencies, Washington state agencies, go to the Department of Enterprise Services. The city of Spokane has its own procurement portal. Mm-hmm. These are called procurement portals or co-ops, whatever. But you need to be part of the co-op. But just by being part of the co-op, or let's say Department of Transportation comes out with something that's like, we need our website redone, and here's a bid for it, and you bid on it, and you fill out all 14 sections correctly and all the way, and some other more qualified person who does really sexy crazy shit fills it out, but they don't fill it out all the way, you win. because they didn't fill it out all the way. And that's how or they don't fill it out correctly, or they hire blanket bidders or underwriters or whatever the fuck they call themselves or want to call themselves to just basically hastily bid on things, as many as they can to see what they can win.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so it's a cool thing.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check this out.
Mm-hmm.
Look into that.
Yeah.
Sounds like there
that's
could
all
be
from
some
machine learning.
Just sounds like there could be some potential there.
There's a lot of potential.
Yeah.
Shit. So I mean, we the people are the government. The government runs on civilian businesses. Civilians build the barracks. Civilians build the roads. So.
In a free country.
Yeah. And so let's go back. Like other things I do with data, I think the most the most controversial thing I've done was publish my findings on the Tesla explosions, because those things blow up a lot.
Not to get off topic, but speaking of things blowing up, did you hear about all those pagers blowing up?
I heard. Tell me about it, because I just loosely read something about that in some other country.
They're saying that it was like the Hamas fighters, apparently, all but like thousands of them, like pagers, all blew up. Started blowing up on their hips, and it killed like 10 people, injured like thousands of them. Blowing it, pagers, not like catching on fire, but like
blowing up, like little packets of C4 in it.
Yeah, they said that, and they're saying that it was suspected, like they think it was backdoor hacked somehow, and those pages were sent some kind of like malware or something that made the lithium batteries rapidly like heat up and explode.
That just sounds like somebody targeted, like gave out explosive pagers to target a terrorist group.
I have no idea how they do it, but yeah. Anyways, I thought that was pretty interesting.
That is interesting.
Like, so they can target these pagers, right? Because who uses a pager anymore, you know? So it's like if they can target a pager with a battery, I mean, why couldn't they target a cell phone?
Or a car.
Yeah, or a car.
Well, the reality is,
so what was up with this Teslas and stuff?
Yeah, if you puncture that battery or get it wet, it's going up. And not even the fire department can put it out. So it's the craziest thing, because the Tesla drivers, they're a cult now. Like you can't just walk up to them and tell them that they explode and all this shit. They don't believe you, because their identity is going into this. But it's pretty obvious that, yeah, this lithium, all these lithium, cobalt, palladium, all this shit, once you puncture that battery, this thing called thermal runaway happens, and you're just set on fire. So you're going to get roasted, locked in a car that you can't open from the fucking inside.
Oh my
because
gosh.
it's all fucked up with the doors and shit.
Yeah, I imagine all the computer and everything, all the electronics go down once that starts happening.
Mm-hmm. So exactly. And so when it comes, I compared two studies. I compared Tesla's data. So Tesla is honest about the data and the fact that they give you the actual data in a CSV file, but they try to be misleading about it. They're trying to make you think that it has to do with the autopilot and autopilot failures. But the thing that the Tesla data set has is a description column. All right. So I took that description column and I did a word cloud, like I showed you. And and the first thing I noticed was the same shit: fire, explosion, crash, burn, and a bunch of synonyms around the word fire. Blaze. And so I started counting the words and then comparing the words statistically. Like compare, and so I said, okay, so I got the count of the words and all the synonyms. And then I took a countrywide study. So the countrywide study was a countrywide traffic accident study that was taken from numerous states, and not countrywide insurance, but a countrywide study that compares all sorts of crazy stuff like sun position and daylight, factors you don't think about, but thank God they have a description column of the accidents, right? So I was able to filter out just fatal accidents and then fatal accidents that involve fire or synonyms.
Okay.
And for a combustion engine, if you were to die in a fatality, for every 10,000 fatalities, 30 involve fire or its synonyms. In a combustion engine, 30.
Okay.
For every 1,000 fatalities in a Tesla, 145 will involve fire or its synonyms.
So that's like significantly higher percentage because you're doing 1/10 of the test pool, and it's like 30, and it's like 3 or 4 times as high.
Oh yeah. They're just exploding fast golf carts, man. It's crazy how they work. And
have you ever driven one?
No.
Me neither. No. I wouldn't mind driving one. It looks kind of fun.
I used to think they were cool.
Yeah, I think they look pretty sweet. I don't know. Yeah. When you're telling me this, it seems kind of dangerous.
I used to not think anything of it. I was like, man, it'd be cool to have a Tesla. Until when I first started the podcasting thing, I had some friends of mine from out in Fairfield. They had a Tesla go off the road, went into their swerved off the road, smashed into a tree, blew up.
Oh my gosh.
The fire department comes, they can't put it out. The whole thing turns into like E.T., the movie E.T. And so they can't like get on their property, and there's all these people in suits. And then the fire department has to get rid of their fire equipment and get new fire suits because of the soot and
like the battery acid.
Yeah,
and stuff.
all the toxic smoke. And then it was this stalemate because now once the car was removed, it was just totally incinerated. Like the person was totally incinerated, like done. It burnt forever. One of their horses died of cancer later that year. But for the while there was this stalemate because there's all this eco mess on their property. Literally, they might as well be an oil spill at that point, right? And so the insurance of the guy's car was like, no, we're only going to cover this much. And then the rest needs to go on your homeowner's insurance, right?
Oh,
and they're trying to play this back and forth
What
bullshit.
a disaster.
Yeah. And, of course, Tesla doesn't offer to pay for nothing.
Yeah.
And so they reached out to me, like, what can you do? And I'm like, okay, we can try to, like, make some videos and shit.
So you tried to expose Tesla, basically?
Uh-huh. Yeah. And in so doing, I looked for data sets, and I found the Tesla fatalities data set. So I looked through that. I'm like, holy fuck, these things blow up a lot. And then once I noticed, it's like, oh shit, they do. Like all like the hoverboards blow up, the cell phones blow up.
So
yeah.
Did Tesla ever reach out and ask you to take it down or pitch into their waste removal?
No. But what happened was the county ended up taking charge of the waste removal, paying for it.
Yeah.
A guy came, they had to remove the first 2 inches of topsoil within a certain area, cut down the trees, remove the trees. And then here's the fucked up part is they had to take it all the way, all the topsoil and shit, to Beaverton, Oregon. Because Beaverton, Oregon's the only place around that's willing to take Tesla explosion shit.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
What a fiasco.
It is a fiasco. And then to top that off, I had a podcast with a guy who's got a solar business, and he was telling me that they don't his solar business flat out refuses to install solar panels on homes that have those Tesla powered batteries in the homes.
Oh, really?
Because, yeah, like those things will blow up and everybody points the finger at the solar panels first, and then nobody wants to point the finger back at Tesla. And it's just an interesting cult, you know? And I like Elon Musk. I don't hate him. I think he's funny as fuck.
Yeah.
It's just, and I used to like the Tesla until I started investigating it. And because people reached out for my help, I'm like, oh, fuck.
Seems like they need to get that battery situation figured out, especially with the new truck that they just came out with, too.
Yeah, that's interesting because Elon Musk shows like lighting it up, shooting it, but I'm like, flip it on its side and shoot the underbelly and see how well it lasts until you puncture that battery. So also Florida, after every hurricane, there's fires from the Teslas that are parked.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
So when water and the battery fluid mixes, it ignites?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know
it's
that.
not good.
I didn't know that. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. Don't get it wet. Don't puncture the battery.
Okay.
Yeah.
Huh.
Even in the military, our comm batteries that we use, like if you throw those in, if you puncture it, hell, if you fucking shoot it, they can explode if it's a fully charged battery, and they're a big fucking explosion too.
Really?
Uh-huh. Yeah. So that would be a cool YouTube video. Like, today we're gonna blow up a Tesla.
Yeah. That would be interesting. I think just lighting it on fire by spraying it with water would be sweet too. Blow it up, hit it with a fire hose.
Yeah, there's a video of a Tesla burning underwater, like burning in the water.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was even last year in July last year, there was a ship going across the Atlantic loaded with a bunch of electric vehicles, and it was just burning at sea for like a month.
I think I saw that.
Yeah.
Where that big storm came in and was knocking a couple of them around, and it caused a bunch of damage, and some of them were just like on fire out on the deck.
Yeah, there's a reason why Ford and a lot of those companies, when they they took a big bite too, because they came out with the new EVs and shit, instant recalls. That's why none of your major manufacturers are pushing these EVs that hard.
Interesting.
Yeah. Though they try to pretend this crap, like it's the strangest thing. And so one of my ideas for the Get Out the Vote campaign was to send out a meme in a text message that shows that Elon Musk loves with the heart Donald Trump. And so every time you see a Tesla and then equals Tesla, so Elon Musk plus Donald Trump with the heart loves equals Tesla. So whenever you see a Tesla, you think of that, how Elon Musk loves Donald Trump. And then you should maybe vote. It says vote too. It says vote at the bottom. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I think there's something to that, like when we mix things like that, when you point something out to people beforehand, then they'll start seeing it, if you do something funny like a meme, or it's kind of like why people take notes, right? Mm-hmm. The act of like physically doing it and like making an action to like recognize that, and it sticks in your head more. So like you're saying, you send them a funny meme that has to do with something political, or a popular figure in the news nowadays, and it's on their phone. Then all of a sudden, everywhere they go, they're going to be seeing American flags and Trump Teslas everywhere they go, but because it's like on their mind. And then like you said, hopefully if it's on their mind, it'll get them to either go out and vote, or when they get the little notice or something in the mail or whatever it is, they hear an ad on the radio, or they're driving by the post office or the voting booth or whatever, they just pull in.
Yeah, that's a good point. And what other ideas do you have? How would you get people to vote?
I don't know. I think that's the $1 million question, right?
Seems like it.
I think you have to, part of it's getting people to feel like their vote counts or matters again. I think that there's a lot of trust gone in the voting process and in the voting and in just the system in general. I think a lot of people don't feel like their vote matters or counts towards anything. I think a lot of people think that it's, believe it's a rigged election or it's a rigged system anyways. So why bother? And then to top it off, you have things like some of these immigration problems that we've been facing the last 4 years with illegal votes and, dead people voting, people that aren't citizens of this country voting, things like that. So I think some of those issues are kind of probably the bigger issues that have to get figured out to try and get people into the voting booths. I don't know if, I just think in general, people's faith in the process is just gone, really.
Seems like it.
And so it's like it's tough. How do you drum up that interest? How do you drum up the that motivation to get people to go and vote? To show them that. It's not even really about what party you're voting for. It's just the fact that people are voting, getting out and voting, because whether you think, regardless of what side you think is right or wrong, it's important that you vote so you have something to stand on at the other end of it and say you can look at it. So, if you're a Republican and you go vote, you think the election was stolen, if you don't go vote and other things, then you're never going to know the difference. You can't have that data, so people like yourself won't be able to look after the fact and pick out inconsistencies or find actual factual statistics, and numbers that go towards that. Whereas if, someone doesn't vote, or they just vote fill in some other name that's insignificant, that's almost like hurting worse, than if you were just go vote for whoever you want, go vote for the side that aligns with what you agree with morally more, and vote for them. And I think that's where your hang-up's going to be, is just getting that point across, fixing those other issues I mentioned previously, and getting people to actually vote rather than the fact of making it easier or more convenient, or how they do it. I think it's kind of, you have to hit them mentally, fix the root cause first.
Yeah. So what do you think people do when they get the ballot in the mail?
Set it on their kitchen counter, talk to their spouse or wife about it. Some people probably toss it in the recycle, don't even open it. Others probably sit there, wait till it's time to fill it out and fill it in. I know I don't believe in the mailing ballots, and so I'm just waiting to go do it in person. So yeah, I think it probably just varies, so much from household to household based on, so many different factors, from your upbringing to your political party to how much you care about things like that. That's such a wide variety, from household to household, whether you're downtown Spokane or drive 20 minutes east to Post Falls or Coeur d'Alene, you'll probably get two extremely different answers, you know.
Well, how big were your parents on voting?
Not huge, honestly. I mean, I don't remember. It was never a huge deal at my house, really. I can't remember really it being a huge deal. Like my dad, make sure you get out there and vote or anything like that. And my family and household was always kind of more on the side of, less big government, the better. And kind of, not a ton of like faith in like the Federal Reserve and the government spending and things like that. So it was always more of like a, let's take care of our house first and, vote according to the way we see things going, rather than just like always Republican or always Democrat or even necessarily always make sure you get out there and vote even, just kind of took things more as they were from, year to year. I don't know. I will say though, like for me, like voting though, like I'm 36 years old. So like when I look at it, and especially these last few like voting terms, like when we're talking about like a presidential election, the thing that got me was like, I don't feel like the country should be ran by 2 or 3 families, right? Whether they're Republican or Democrat, at this point, I feel like they're all just the same cabal. But the idea of, this government being ran by, Clintons or Bushes or Obamas or these same couple families, and then it's coming back and rotating. It's like this for my whole entire lifetime. It's been, these are your choices and this is what you see and this is what you get kind of thing. And I've just felt like, I don't know. I just didn't really trust that system and that setup and those people. I felt like there's a lot of smoke and mirrors and I don't know, call me conspiracy theorist or whatever you want. But I just didn't really buy into a lot of that. So I think it's important to vote for, at this point, I just think it's important to vote for, like I said, who you align with more morally, who you think's going to be, where you want the country to be for your kids in 10 or 15 years and where you see it going, and kind of just where you stand on, as a person, I guess. It's just important to vote, I suppose.
Yeah. It's something I used to not. I guess my parents took it more serious growing up, to the point where I would see them fill out the ballot, or sometimes my mom or dad would like take turns watching us kids while they went down to the local elementary to vote, or they would take us down to the elementary to vote. And I remember like this is boring, like it's just a table with a bunch of old ladies. But then I started doing it. It's hard not to be a registered voter in Washington State. That's almost like the thing. If like even illegals, they just instantly make them registered. It's hard not to be. But now when I get the ballot in the mail, I treat it like something I need to do. And I fill it out and I put my signature and I send it in. Luckily, we have a way to track whether or not your ballot made it in. So that's easy to do. If it's going to be not accepted this year, it would probably be because of this new signature identification system. So if you gave some half-ass signature on one compared to the first one you gave, like maybe your first one was perfect, maybe your next one's half-assed. We have to check it out. There's been a few we probably had around 400 this year in this last election.
Really?
From non-matching signatures. We'll see how efficient that system is too.
How many people in Spokane turn out and vote? Out of, let's say there's, how many people live in the Spokane? Like half a million?
There's 357,000 registered voters in the county.
Okay.
Of that, this August election, the primary, 19% turned out to vote. So it was like 120,000.
That's even less than, no, it's like 50,000 or 40,000, isn't it?
Yeah, no, 19%. No, okay, so
it'd be like 60 or 70.
No, it's probably more like 40. I have it. I got all the data.
Well, 20% of 250,000 would be 50.
Hold on. I want to make sure I get my facts right. Yeah, so of those statewide, only 14% turn out for any given election. Turnout percentage. Yeah, so if we go all the way down to where Spokane is, following precincts, so 52% for county general election, but let's see for the okay. Yeah, general elections around 52%. And 40%. That's what it was. It was 40% for the August 13th. So that's average. Right, for the state. So for the primary election, I think if anything we might be a little bit above average. So I drew out the general election versus the primary. So the primary, yeah, we are above average, but we're still within the bell curve. So right here, the mean is 27 and we're at 40, but the max is 54, right? So if we were to go past 54, I know we're outside of what the distribution is going to be, the probability distribution.
Interesting.
So yeah, we are higher. I mean, we're higher than the mean of 27, but we're still within the probability distribution. If it was past 54 for a primary, we'd be like, yeah, that's a big turnout, but we're average. I mean, a little bit higher than the mean, but we're average.
You're right in there
to what the state is. So the state for a primary election. So
interesting.
So that's another thing I do is basic statistics on voter turnout, and it really is boring as fuck. I mean, it's not that sexy compared to Tesla explosions or even seeing pork and bills or shit, even just having a conversation with ChatGPT.
Yeah, right.
ChatGPT is an interesting conversationalist. And so, yeah, what do you use ChatGPT for?
I mean, recently I've just been asking it for many times for ideas, template systems for like if I'm writing something like a letter, and then also for like code hints, how to just coding errors and coding solutions, helping me with coming up with when I run into problems, how do I fix this, or how would I make this component? What's going on with this error, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're running on time because I got to get to this Our Connect event. at 6, and it's 5:48. So, last but probably more important question: where can people find you? Where can they find Rich Lane? They know where to find Poor Parking Lot. That's me.
Right on. Yeah. I'm on Instagram. It's _R Calhoun. It's just my name. And then online, it's lanesbrains.com. That's my company.
Sweet. All right, guys, you heard it. I hope you guys enjoyed this podcast as much as I did. Be sure to check out his links in the video description below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and smash that bell for more data-driven updates. Bye.